Okay, guys, here we are. Just math, y'all. Just math. That's all we do. We've got quadratic equations using the quadratic formula today. This is video number 2. And those are your steps. Make sure you know your steps. I will refer back to these as we are working through the problems. Got a couple more examples. Let's see what we can get done. The first example I want to do is x squared minus x plus 6. Okay, so first thing we need to do is make sure it says equal 0, and this one does. So that step I get to skip and move on to the second step, which is to determine your A, your B, and your C. So if we determine our A, B, and C, then we will see that A is 1, B is -1, and C is 6. So I'm going to write those down for us. Here we go. A is 1, B is -1, and C is 6. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put these numbers into our formula. And so our formula starts x equals, because that's what the formula does. It figures out x for us, but we don't ever use any of the x's. We don't ever use x. We're just always using the A, B, and C. So it's going to be x equals -b, so -1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so it's -1 squared, minus 4 times a times c, and this is all over 2 times a. Okay, so now we're going to come to our scratch and do our radical. We're going to simplify this. We're going to start with the radical, just the radical. I'm going to take it out, simplify it, and bring it back. So -1 squared is 1. -1 times -1 is 1. And then I've got a minus 24. This is a minus 24. Okay, and so that's going to give me the square root of -23. So I need to simplify this, and don't forget that when we simplify negatives, we end up with an I. We're going to have an I times the square root of 23. 23 doesn't break, and so that's that radical simplified all the way. So now this gets to come back into my problem. So that's going to become a +1 plus or minus I square root 23 over 2. Okay, so step 1, set equal to 0. Step 2, figure out my A, B, and C. Step 3, put it into the formula. Step 4, simplify the radical all the way. Step 5, we're going to separate the fraction and reduce. Well, neither one of these reduces. So that's my answer. It's 1/2 plus or minus the square root of 23 over 2, and we can stick the I in front or behind. It does not matter. This is our official answer to this one. Let's move on. Okay, so this one we're going to start again with the A, B, and C. Wait a minute. Can we do A, B, and C? Is it in the right form? Does it say equals 0? It does not say A equals 0, so we're going to add 2 to both sides. And now it's going to say 11x squared minus 4x plus 2 equals 0. So now my A is 11, B is -4, and C is 2. So put this into my formula. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times 11 times 2 all over 2 times 11. All right, get it all in there. It's so much easier when you have the formula memorized. Trust me. I can't do this without having my formula memorized. If you don't have it memorized, you need to get it in front of you so that you can memorize it. Okay. So then we're going to do the radical, just the radical. It's going to give me a 16 minus 88, because that's going to be a minus 88. All right, and so that's going to give me negative 72. Is that right? Okay, so now I've got to simplify it. I'm going to have an I. I know I'm going to have an I because of that negative, so I'm just going to put it out front. And then I've got to start doing this. And then that's going to be a 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. The 2 is going to get out with the I. A 3 is going to get out with the I. And then the radical stays, so I'll get 6I square root of 2. So now I took the radical, got it done all the way, and I'll bring it back. All right, so now let's go back. That's going to be a plus 4. My radical is 6I square root of 2 over 22. Okay, separate my fraction. So 4 over 22 plus minus 6I square root of 2 over 22, and reduce. Now reduce. So this will be 2 over 11 plus or minus 3I square root of 2 over 11. Because I can reduce this fraction and I can reduce that fraction. And that is my official answer right there. And that's 2 answers. We talked about that. Okay, one more. One more. Again, this one does not say 0 equals 0, so I'm going to make this one say equals 0 by doing this. I'm going to add 2 to both sides so that it says 9x to the second plus 6x plus 2 equals 0. Okay, determine my A. A is 9, B is 6, and C is 2. Okay, do my formula. X equals negative B. This time B is positive, so it's just going to be a negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4 times A, which is 9, times C, which is 2, all over 2A, 2 times 9. All right, take the radical out. Let's see what we get. The radical gives me 36, and then this is going to be a negative 72. So that's the square root of negative 36. All right, again, there's an I, so I know there's going to be an I. And then the square root of 36, well, that's 3 times 12. That's 3 times 3 times 4. Hey, I could do a double 3. Oh, but then I got the 3's out, the 2's out, nobody's home. That's 6I. There's no more radical. Get the radical done all the way. Here we go, and bring it back. So now let's bring it back. That's just negative 6. I got negative 6 plus or minus, bring my radical back, 6I over 18. Okay, break my fractions. Okay, did that, and reduce. Reduce. Break the fractions and the reduce. This is going to be a 1/3, a negative 1/3, plus or minus I 1/3, 1/3 I. There we go. That'll work. Make sure there's the I on there. And that's my answer there. And that's 2 answers. And that tells me it's time to stop our video. It just doesn't want to be quiet, does it? Okay. All right, time's up. There was 3 more examples using the quadratic formula to solve these quadratic equations. It's not hard if you just follow the same steps over and over and over again. All right, it's just math, y'all. That's all it is. It's just math, y'all. You can do it.